neighbour, and this is the AV Experience, a podcast brought to you by Optoma. To celebrate International Women's Day, with an earlier release in our usual second Thursday of the month, we are joined by Carys Green, Account Manager for Pioneer Group and AVIXA's Women's Council Leader in the UK. For anybody who doesn't know, Carys starts by explaining the role of AVIXA and AVIXA's Women's Council and how she came to be engaged with the trade association.
AVIXA stands for Audiovisual and Integrated Experience Association, and AVIXA is the trade association representing the professional audiovisual and information communications industries worldwide. So it is a global organisation that provide training, resources, events, seminars, research, and they also put on the Infocom trade show that happens in the US every June. AVIXA have a number of councils, and the AVIXA Women's Council provide a global community to AVIXA members and other professionals supporting and empowering women who work in the technology and AV industry. They provide career empowerment, mentoring and networking opportunities.
And how did you come to be engaged with AVIXA's Women's Council?
With the networking group Women in AV after I met Abigail Brown in 2013. And back then there might only be 6 or 10 women at the meetings. Very sadly, Abigail died of cancer in 2019. But by that time, Women in AV was attracting audiences of 100 plus to our events, and with a number of men starting to attend as well, which is actually really excellent, because the only way we're going to get better equality in this industry is if men engage in the conversation as well. The AVIXA Women's Council has been a huge success in the States, and chapters have started to grow in Australia, Taiwan, Singapore and Germany. So myself and a few others approached AVIXA about carrying on the work that Abigail started as a UK chapter of the AVIXA Women's Council. It's a great platform for us to be able to carry on the work that Abigail started, with a fantastic team behind us and resources available to us.
Could you give us a brief rundown of the events that brought you into AV and took you from B&M Europe into your current role as Sales Account Manager for Pioneer Group?
So my career post-university actually started a few years before I went to B&M. I joined the graduate training scheme for John Lewis, where I moved from shop floor assistant to section manager of lingerie. But after about 18 months, I realised that retail, and particularly the late nights and the Saturday working, wasn't for me. I moved into recruitment. So B&M Europe was a recruitment role for IT. Then I did a year for a software startup company and got made redundant. So I contacted a friend who was in recruitment and said, help, I need a new role. And he suggested I apply for a position with Maverick. Back then they were Maverick Presentation Products. They're now Tech Data Maverick, the AV distribution arm of Tech Data. So yeah, that was in 2005. And I absolutely loved working at Maverick. The pace and the buzz of working there was really amazing. Sadly, they went into administration in 2007 when I was off on maternity leave. And while they did get bought by Tech Data and some staff were retained, at that point, a lot of us did get made redundant. I then worked at another distributor. And then in 2012, after having my second son, I moved into systems integration. Came to Pioneer in the summer of 2019, and I finally feel, much like I did at Maverick, that I'm in a place where I'm really happy, great company, great colleagues, interesting projects. So yeah, I'm really enjoying being here.
Would you say you were destined to work in AV?
I don't think I was specifically destined for AV, but I was definitely destined to work in a role helping people solve problems and communicating with people on many different levels and from a wide range of backgrounds. I definitely think it's fair to say I'm a people person.
What do you think is one of the main issues our industry faces?
A lack of knowledge that the industry even exists. It is definitely something I'd very much like to address. I certainly wasn't aware of the breadth that the AV industry covers prior to me entering 16 years ago. Through the Women's Council, we are looking at starting an education programme. My co-leader on the UK Council, Sadie Groom, also runs a similar network for the broadcast industry, and they have built up a programme where they go into primary schools and speak to girls and boys about the broadcast industry and the opportunities there are, and they do a workshop setting up a studio. And that's definitely something that we've discussed that we would like to replicate for the AV industry.
Is there anyone who inspires you in business or technology?
Abigail Brown was a huge inspiration to me, and I think anyone who ever met her would have agreed. She was an incredibly positive person. I called her my ray of sunshine. She was always kind, looking to help people, support people, get the best out of people. So yeah, I would absolutely highlight Abigail as a huge inspiration. I do have several other mentors, both in the industry and outside in the wider business world. I think having a network of contacts and colleagues that you can rely on and go to with questions is really important.
And what are your proudest moments in the industry?
My proudest moment would definitely be being asked to be a leader of the UK AVIXA Women's Council, but also in last summer being nominated to be in the Installation Magazine's Pro AV Power 20.
Is there any exciting news or events in the pipeline for AVIXA?
Our first UK event will have to be a virtual one, which will take place during the second week of March to coincide with International Women's Day. We'll then be looking to hold quarterly events. Hopefully towards the end of this year, we can actually get some face-to-face events in place.
How can people get in touch with you and find out more about all the wonderful things you're doing?
I'm quite active on LinkedIn, also Twitter. My Twitter handle is at @AV_Carys. The AVIXA Women's Council have a Twitter handle, which is at AVIXA Women. If you are interested in joining our database to be emailed news of the AVIXA Women's events and programs coming up, then that email address is avixawomenuk@gmail.com.
Thank you, Carys, for sharing your AV experience with us. You've been listening to the AV Experience, brought to you by Optoma. If you'd like to learn more about the podcast or would even like to feature, please visit optoma.com for more details. I'm Karina. This is the AV Experience. Catch you in the ether.